Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Fanatec GT2 European Series for the last time this year. We're at the Circuit Paul Ricard at Le Castellet in the south of France. Just across from the mountains there is the Mediterranean, and from there blows the Mistral, which gives this famous circuit the name of the longest straight in Grand Prix racing. 1.6 kilometers, punctuated for our use by one chicane, but still a daunting prospect and a great overtaking, or indeed two great overtaking opportunities generated by the slipstream on the straight. So we head into the final race at the final round, and we will find out when we get to the checkered flag in a little under an hour from now, the Pro-Am and the Am class champions. The titles are up for grabs. They have yet to be decided. It seems likely that the Am title, which is a two-way fight, will go to the driver from the Czech Republic, Jan Krabek, but we have 6 drivers in the hunt in 4 different cars for the Pro-Am title. Well, there is the layout, 5.8 kilometers on this particular iteration of the Paul Ricard circuit, named after the pastis magnate Paul Ricard, who made his fortune with the aniseed-based alcoholic drink after absinthe was banned. And that was after the First World War. Decided that he needed to build and own a Grand Prix circuit. So he built and owned a Grand Prix circuit, and for many years was the home of the French Grand Prix. That then ventured off to other pastures, and of course has since returned gloriously to Le Castellet. So here we are in bright autumnal sunshine, ready for 50 minutes of racing to decide who comes out on top of the pile. Let's take a look at the cars on the grid then. This distinctive yellow and black Audi chasing. They are second in the standings, came in here just 2 points off the lead. That is the Gerlings Longin Audi, and they are chasing our points leaders, Henri Acide and Anthony Beltoise. But the gap now, as Acide and Beltoise finished ahead of them in the first race, has extended and is now out to 8 points, and that means a first to third place split will be required to overturn that advantage. Looking here on the front row of the grid, this is the father and son combination. Mauro Ricci started race 1. Benjamin Ricci, his son, took over midway through, so it will be Benjamin who starts this second race. And all of the cars, bar one, have 2 drivers in. Car number 89, Jan Krabek, our Am class pole sitter, as he was for race 1, is the only man driving solo, which makes it harder work as you get towards the end of the 50 minutes, because these cars are not by anybody's standards easy things to drive or non-physical things to drive. But at least it means that he knows exactly what state the car is in, because he's not taking it over from somebody else. 1 minute board being shown, grid is being cleared, easy for me to say. Borrowed teeth for the weekend. And temperature, 23 degrees of air temperature. Track temperature will be high 30s. So the Pirelli tyres, which everybody uses in this series, will be working hard for their living. Mandatory pit stop in the middle of the race. There is a 10-minute pit window from minute 30 to minute 40. And all of the cars must stop there. And even Jan Krabek driving alone, although he will be in the car for the second stint, the rule is that he has to get out and then get back in again. There's a minimum pit stop time of 128 seconds, which is from the pit-in line to the pit-out line. And that means that the cars are stationary pretty much for 60 seconds for a safe driver changeover. So the field rolls away, 15 cars, 16 were entered, but after a crash in practice, one of what was due to be 4 true racing KTM crossbows was too badly damaged to continue, so they are down to 3 cars. But they are not the only KTM crossbows in the field, because they are being led round by car number 812. On your programme, number 1 on the grid, that's Martin Koch and Reinhard Koffler. Koffler starting the black and lime green crossbow run by MZR Motorsport Centrum Ried. And there, car number 15 is Stefan Rosina. He starts this stint and will hand over to his co-driver for the weekend, who is Gilles Vannelet, making his GT2 debut. Vannelet has been a GT and prototype racer, Vannelet for a number of years, many years actually. Well, let's take a look at our grid. 8-1-2 on pole position, the KTM, Koch and Koeffler, and it's Reinhard Koeffler who starts. It will be Benjamin Ricci who starts car number 61, the blue and white Mercedes, and then it'll be the number 1 car, Gerlings and Longin, Stinus Longin, who will start that car from 3rd on the grid. Pierre Caffer starts from 4th in Audi number 18. Matteo Di Giusto starts 5th in the 88 Audi, and Anthony Beltoise starts 6th in the 67 championship-leading Audi. Its black and gold colours make it a very distinctive car to see. But they need to do some work in that car. 6th position where they start will not be enough for Hazid and Beltoise to claim the championship. If these grid positions are not changed before the end of the race, then the advantage will definitely go to that yellow and black Audi rather than the black and gold Audi there of Gerlings and Longchamp. Behind them is the Luca Piri started Maserati M20 GT2. It's blue and white livery, made its debut in the GT2 series. Its global racing debut as a GT2 car. There it is, blue with the white and yellow highlights. Started its race from pole position, ended up on the podium in 2nd place. It is one of 3 cars that are invisible for points in this race, so it will not count in the championship battle. Cars that are entered for the final race of the season do not score points, and that's to dissuade spoilers, shall we say. So KTM, Mercedes, Audi, Maserati, Porsche and Lamborghini on the grid. And black and lime green of Reinhard Koeffler, man who is starting the race on pole position alongside the white and blue Ricci BMW Mercedes. Haven't got a BMW GT2 yet. Benjamin Ricci will start. Stinus Longchamp, car number 1, yellow with black highlights. That's the Audi on the inside of row 2. And Pierre Caffer, former Audi factory LMP1 driver in the black and red Audi on the outside of row 2. 15 cars ready to go. 50 minutes of racing here at the Circuit du Castellet, and you may not pass before the start-finish line. I think there could be trouble for the Porsche drivers and for the black Mercedes coming down the outside. Ludovic Bardet starting there, the dark grey and white car. Looked like he made up a couple of places. He has gone by Matteo Di Giusto, who was 2 rows in front of him. The leader is Reinhard Koeffler from Benjamin Ricci. Stinus Longchamp in 3rd, the yellow car, and then in 4th place, Pierre Caffer. He has not quite managed to indicate to timing and scoring who's in the car, and a spin from Benjamin Ricci out of 2nd place. Cold tyres, no tyre warmers. They've been sitting on the grid. Although it's warm, it's certainly not enough to get the tyres up to close to their 100-degree operating window. So cold tyres, cold brakes, grabbing brakes, not enough grip. That's why you'll see cars weaving down the straight. Now look for that tall, dark grey and white Mercedes. I think Ludovic Bardet may be answering questions to the stewards, or the team it may be. I'm sure we will take a look at that, and the stewards definitely will look at the start to make sure nobody jumps. Unlike US racing, you don't go green immediately. Well, you do go green immediately, but you cannot pass before the start-finish line. I think Ludovic Bardet definitely made up ground. There's our other newcomer here, the 888 Mercedes of Stefan Perrin and Jakob Noll. They're one of our AM class cars. And here is the battle between the Audis for 2nd place. Right behind is Ludwig Bardet in 4th place. And then 5th place, Matteo Di Giusto in another of the Audi. So Reinhard Koerfler on the right-hand side of your shot, pulling away now down into Virage du Pont, the final corner on the lap. And all of those brilliant blue and red stripes around the side of the circuit are in place of gravel traps. It's not just to make it look pretty for the photographers, although it does look pretty for the photographers. It makes the circuit instantly identifiable because nowhere else has that. But when this circuit was not a racetrack, when for years it was the high-tech test track du Castellet, HTTC, those were laid down, and it's not just paint. That paint has got tungsten granules in it, grains in it. You can feel it. It's like extremely rough sandpaper, like a sanding disc you might use on a grinder. And it destroys tyres as they slide sideways across it. It's very effective at slowing cars down without gravel traps spreading gravel everywhere. So it doesn't do your tyres any good. It does stop you effectively, but it does mean that drivers must keep off it as if it was gravel. Here's a move shaping up down the back straight. The first of the KTMs looked like Stefan Resina sizing up Anthony Beltoise. There's the 87 car of Ludo Bardet in 4th place. And that car started on row 5 of the grid in 9th. So he definitely got the inside line down to the first corner. But if he was a little ambitious, I think it's fair to say the stewards will definitely have had a look. Stanis Langin pulling away in 2nd place. And he's leaving Pierre Caffa to deal with Ludwig Bardet. Bardet and his veteran teammate Jean-Luc Bobelik had a very good run in race 1. Excellent stint from both men, and that brought them into 2nd at the flag behind the green and black KTM that is our current leader. But that had picked up a 10-second penalty for an incident in traffic, and that meant that Bardet and Bobelik won their 2nd race together. They won race 1 in Valencia as well, their first in the GT2 European Series. They won race 1 here today. They were 2nd in race 2 in Valencia a couple of weeks ago. So will they finish on the podium again? Well, Reinhard Koerfler needs the win to become the series title winner. But to become champion, if he wins the race, he needs the 2 cars ahead of him to finish outside the top 3. He is 14 points off the lead, and he needs them to finish outside of the top 3. And the same for Stefan Resina. He needs Resina also to be outside the top 3. So right now, with the upper hand in terms of points, Stanis Langin in the number 1 car, because he... Ooh, down the inside comes Benjamin Ricci. This is in replay. Little clatter into the Lamborghini. That car started, the number 30 car by Jean-Paul Buffin. Looked like a little touch. Buffin didn't get delayed badly by it, and Ricci didn't actually make up ground. Bardet goes through for 3rd at Senior. So out of that chicane, up to Senior, a super fast right-hander at the end of the Mistral. It's always one of the most feared corners in Formula 1 and remains a tough challenge. He got the slipstream on Pierre Caffa and went by him. This is not Matteo Di Giusto. This is Pierre Caffa now behind with the red and black Audi. Matteo is in the red, white and black, or the white with red and black highlights that he shares with series boss Stefan Rattel. So Pierre Caffa behind Ludo Bardet, and Bardet getting the run up the inside into Senior. And that's difficult because you come in at too flat a trajectory. That means then you're going to be in real danger of running out wide. He managed to hold it all together, and Ludovic Bardet up to 2nd place, up to 3rd place, beg your pardon. So Stanis Langin in front of him in 2nd, and there is the race leader with the green highlights, Reinhard Koerfler. So Ludo Bardet Best first sector of the lap last time round, fastest second sector of anybody else, and that's what set up the move through the chicane and up to senior. A little further back, the 888. That's Jakob Noll from the Czech Republic. And the Czech driver sharing with Frenchman Stéphane Parrin. They are both bronze-rated drivers. Drivers are rated by the FIA on their age, ability, previous history, and so on. So a Grand Prix driver will be a platinum, and a gentleman driver will likely be a bronze. Some of them may work their way up to being a silver, particularly if they're young and they have success in their early career. Here comes the Maserati, though. Not able to squeeze through. That's Luca Piri in 10th place in that blue car with the white and yellow highlights. The Trident returns to the racetrack for the first time since the Maserati MC12 was the dominant force in FIA GT1 racing. Right now, Jakob Noll leading in the AM category. Sadi Sarmini is second in the AM class, and Jan Krabek is third. In terms of points, well, Krabek is the points leader, but cannot afford any real dramas. Doesn't matter to him at all if that Mercedes is in front of him. Doesn't really matter too much either if Sadi Sarmini in the orange and black KTM is in front of him, because Sarmini is 36 points off the lead and is not a championship rival to him. The only title rival is Klaus Angerhofer, and Angerhofer in another of the True Team KTMs. Here comes the Maserati. Luca Piri shaping up down the inside into Le Verrières. The first corner, can't make it through. Another great shot of Ludo Bade. We saw him in the first race doing exactly that, really hammering the Mercedes over the curbs in the 1-2 complex La Verrières. You get to the end of the straight and the first corner, left-right, drops down away from you. If you hammer the curb on the inside, it does shorten it by a little bit. Battle for 9th place here. Sadi Sarmini in the orange and black KTM, and right behind is the Maserati. Now, Maserati showed good pace in qualifying, good pace in race 1. It was reliable. They've had no major dramas with the car at all yet, which is very encouraging for potential future customers. Of course, Maserati, with the success of the Maserati Trofeo for so many years, has got an awful lot, perhaps, of potential customers for a Pro-Am style GT2 car. Even more get up and go than the Trofeo cars, and they were popular enough. Ludwig Bade in the grey and white Acaris ASP Mercedes, still in 3rd place, still not really making much inroads into this man. Car number 1's Stanis Longin. The gap remains relatively large to leader Reinhard Koerfler as well. 4.2 seconds, not going up, not going down that much. But Bade closing in the final sector of the lap, and he's bringing Pierre Caffer with him, then Mattia Di Giusto. There's Anthony Beltoise in 6th position. Beltoise now ahead of Stefan Rosina. So right now, Anthony Beltoise hanging on to a top 6 position. It is not a championship winning position at the moment, but the race is long, and patience, as so often is the case in any kind of endurance racing, is often your strongest suit. So Stefan Rosina, the Slovakian driver. We've got a couple of drivers from the Czech Republic. Stefan from Slovakia, and we've got a duo from Lithuania as well in the number 5 Porsche. Aurelius Rustica has started that. He's a little further down the queue. Bottled up behind Bertrand Rouchard's KTM. Rouchard in the new entered 51 KTM from True Racing has just got by Rustica's Porsche And it looks like he's just starting to creep away in the background as well. So here is the battle for second. Stinus Longchamp had a couple, 3 seconds in hand over Ludo Bade. When Bade got by Pierre Caffer, that is now under a second. And Bade closing in this last element of the lap. Meanwhile, here is Jan Krabak up behind Sedi Sarmini. Krabak, the black KTM with the broad white markings on it. Closing in on the similar crossbow of Sedi Sarmini. This is not just for 10th place overall, it is for 2nd place in the AM category race as well. And Sedi, beg your pardon, for 3rd place in the AM category race, because of course it is Reinhard Koerfler leading. No, it is 2nd place in the AM category. Jakob Knoll is leading, Sedi Sarmini 2nd in AM, Jan Krabak is 3rd in AM. And behind him comes Benjamin Ricci. Benjamin in that blue and white Mercedes that started on the front row of the grid and then spun in turn 3. And there's a change. Ludo Bade has gone by Stinus Longchamp. So that is 2nd, 3rd and 4th all together. As close as you can imagine. And did he make that advantage through turn 1 and 2? Certainly we saw aviating Mercedes driving from Ludo Bade. He's not looking ahead of him, he is watching the mirror intently. He knows where the chicane braking markers are, he can feel that, but he's watching the mirrors. Down into turn 1, here we go. So this is a left-right sequence. He goes down the inside, late into turn 1, gets the nose turned in under braking, just takes a little bit of the inside curb. Does he keep it clean? Yes, he does, into 2, rides that curb. Mercedes is the only car that can take that much curb and get away with it. And only, it seems, in the hands of Ludo Bade, but he is now up to 2nd. But the gap to the leader is nearly 6 seconds. Reinhard Koerfler, 5.7 seconds up the road. And Koerfler, I remind you, is a championship contender. Just. He has started this race 15 points behind the leaders. 1 point behind Stefan Rosina. I beg your pardon, 1 point ahead of Stefan Rosina, so 14 points behind the leaders. And there is the car in 3rd place in the race that is 2nd in the standings. Pierre Caffer looking to make a move on Stinus Longchamp. Caffer shows his nose a little. Doesn't come through on the inside. So the Belgian driver hanging on. Caffer looking again on the inside, avoids contact there. Longchamp gave him enough racing room and Caffer made sure there wasn't contact. He's far too wily a competitor. The Austrian has had a lot of racing experience and a lot of it at the really highest levels. You don't accidentally become an Audi factory prototype driver. There's got to be an awful lot of talent, knowledge and experience there. And he's tucked in behind. Now he pops out. Can't get through under braking though. Longchamp leaving it very late indeed to hold off his rival in their battle for 3rd. But this is going to allow Mattia Di Giusto behind to close a fraction. Mattia in the next of the Audis. So it's KTM and Mercedes, then Audi and Audi, followed by another Audi, and then Anthony Beltraz in 6th in the 4th Audi in the race. So although we've got a KTM leading by an increasing margin actually over the Mercedes of Ludovic Bade, we've then got 4 Audis, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. Stefan Rosina's KTM is 7th, ahead of Jakob Knoll. In 8th place in his Mercedes. The Maserati of Luca Piri is in 9th spot. And we are heading towards the time when the pit window will open. Well, there are several things that happen in the pit stop. Tyres tend not to get changed unless there's some major drama. There may well be fuel for the cars. There will be a driver change, and that will affect the performance of the car, because no two drivers, no matter how close they are going to be exactly at the same speed in the car, and that will be the case for every car in the field. So some may have been going a fraction quicker in the first part of the race, some may go a fraction quicker in the second part, not necessarily compared to the first driver in their car, but compared to their peers in that second group of drivers. So it's by no means certain, unlike if you have a single driver race in Formula One, if Max Verstappen's going quickly before the pit stop, tends to be the case he's going to be quite quick after it as well. But if he was to hand over to Sergio Perez midway through, then the pace of the car would change, or vice versa. If Perez led and then handed over to Max in the second half, he would know that the car would be going, at the very least, as quickly as he had against his rivals. Well, that's the case here. Ooh. And this is Jan Krabak and Sadie Samini. Samini on the inside in the number 16 orange and black KTM. Not giving an inch here. And Krabak just up against the white line. Oh, well, he can't make a pass if he's 4 wheels outside the white line. He could if it was only 2, but he did not get through that time round. Benjamin Ricci ahead of both of them. You see the blue Mercedes in front. In fact, we've got 2 blue cars, 9th and 10th, because we've got Luca Piri and the Maserati in 9th. And here is that battle again. Jan Krabak right behind Sadie Samini. And that approach through Senior down into Le Beausset, this long, never-ending double right-hander. The second element, much tighter than the first. Very easy to go in too hot and run out wide. And then sweeping round through the left-hander. And these corners up towards the end of the lap, very different in nature from the main straight and the front straight, but each end of this stretched out elastic band is very tight and twisty. Out of Virage du Lac through Virage du Pont and heading towards the line to start another lap. And the pit stop window will open any moment, so possibly some of the drivers may come in as soon as the end of this lap. We'll wait and see. Jan Krabak is the only one who doesn't have to consider what the pace of the second driver in the car will be, because it's him. So it'll be pretty much what it was. For a number of these cars, though, the second driver in the car is a more highly graded driver. Most of the second drivers are silver graded, so they are likely to stay in longer. There's the Maserati of Luca Piri. He's a silver driver. His teammate Leonardo Guarini has been competing in the AM class because he is a bronze driver. He's been paired up with another bronze this season. Down into the chicane, you can see the Mistral goes on straight by if you want it to, and a couple of weeks ago in the 24-hour Motorcycle Endurance World Championship race, the Bol d'Or, the legendary Bol, they came howling down that straight. Nearly 25 seconds of open throttle for the superbikes that race in the Bol d'Or. Pit window is open. It's a 10-minute window, which effectively gives you 4 laps. Maybe a few seconds more, and teams are out already waiting to receive cars. Of course, there is these days radio communication. It's not just on the pit boards, although those are there as well. And Sadie Samini hanging on still to second place in the AM class. Jan Krabak, will he pit now? He can do. Luca Piri is in the Maserati. So he will hand over early on this brand new Maserati GT2 to his teammate, Leonardo Guarini. There's Guarini. This is, as we said in the first race, we've been saying all season, not a 3.2 second, 2.9 second Formula One stop. The car will remain stationary for around 90 seconds for the driver change. And again, in comes the man who is the champion-elect, I think it's fair to say, unless disaster comes his way. Jan Krabek, he is in. The cockpit top comes up on the crossbow. Does look like something that Darth Vader would drive on his weekend off, particularly in black. And we saw him taking a big swig. Team pouring some water down the back of his race suit, which gives you temporary respite. Bit of cold water inside what is obviously a very hot cockpit, but it fast becomes a very hot, wet race suit rather than a hot, only slightly damp race suit. Cleaning the windscreen. And he is being strapped in by the driver helper. Doesn't have to be a co-driver. It can be a driver helper even when there are two drivers. In the pits, you saw Luca Piri. And in as well is Jan Krabek and Aurelius Rustica, who hands over the Porsche to Ebi Motors teammate Mantas Janavicius. There's an all-Lithuanian crew in the AM category. And Krabek, 26.5 minutes to become champion. That's as simple as it is. All he's got to do is keep on keeping on. So he heads off. Klaus Angerhofer, his only championship rival, is in the pits, waiting for teammate Sadie Sarmini to bring the car in and hand over to him. And Sarmini may well be in late. And you just saw the Ebi Motors Porsche leaving its pit box as in comes 888 to the NM Racing team. Jakob Noll is out, and he hands over to French co-driver Stéphane Perrin. Mercedes-AMG GT2. Just a check, as we saw in the first race, particularly of the rear tyres, but the front tyre pressures will be checked as well. These cars, rear-wheel drive only, so they do work the rears a lot. But again, in the tight and twisty corners here, and in corners like Senior, the tyres take a lot of punishment. The high speeds this track generates means high G loading. So those early tyre pressures that were set to cope with cold tyres at the start, and then the first stint will just be adjusted to reflect how much hotter the air, I was going to say air inside them, but it's nitrogen normally that tyres are inflated with, because it's inert, it doesn't expand or contract with heat. But the tyre pressure does go up as the nitrogen heats. Uh-oh, Mercedes does not look like it wants to start. Well, there we go. It's making the right noises. And away he goes. So a little bit of time above and beyond what was required in the pit stop. In each of our two categories, the top three cars from race one will have to remain stationary a little longer than their rivals. 14 seconds extra added to the pit stop time of Jan Krabek. 7 seconds extra to the NM Racing Team Mercedes we were just watching. And True Racing car number 16 has a 5-second additional time added to its pit stop. Now, the time stationary is not monitored by officials, but the time between the pit in line and the pit out line is. Out comes 51, tucking in just behind the number 5 Ebi Motors Porsche, which is up to speed and should just creep away a little bit now from Alexandre Leroy. Leroy having a busy weekend. He was out in qualifying for the French GT Championship not more than an hour ago. It's one of a number of drivers, Jean-Luc Bobelic, also doing double duty. There's a few drivers that are doing both the Fanatec GT2 European Series and other races in this phenomenal weekend of action here at Le Castellet, which is the SRO Festival. Reinhard Koerfler still leads in his KTM. Ludovic Badet still stays out in second. Stinus Longin in third. Pierre Caffer in fourth. Mattia Di Giusto and Anthony Beltoise yet to venture into the pit lane as well. As in comes the Lamborghini, car number 30. Jean-Paul Buffin is out of the driver's door. And slipping himself into an undoubtedly hot and sweaty seat is Georges Caban. Georges' team that runs this Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 1, which suggests that an Evo 2 is definitely possible, doesn't it? Benjamin Ricci in the pit lane as well in the blue and white Mercedes. So still, the top 7 in the race have yet to stop, down to car number 15, Stefan Rosina. There is the third of the KTMs to stop. No, second, in fact, it wasn't the KTM, that was the roof of the Lamborghini that we were seeing. KTMs confusingly also have lots of orange and black, and a couple of them have got a black, white orange roof as well. Well, so far, no penalties, no dramas from the steward's office. Lamborghini wasn't keen on catching there, was it? Tried to fire a couple of times and didn't want to. Super busy pit lane all the way along this very long Le Castellet pit lane. Lots and lots of drivers in, lots and lots of championships. All the support paddocks are absolutely jammed as well. More than 20 races, individual races, and that's not qualifying and free practice sessions. It's individual races this weekend. First race was on track at 8 this morning, and they will still be going into the darkness. Oh dear, 10-second time penalty for the Maserati. Too short a pit stop time. In is the race leader, Reinhard Koerfler. So Koerfler is out, Martin Koch is in, an Austrian duo, and Koerfler with a chance to win the title. There goes the car of Stinus Longin. He's in as well. Ludo Badet is in from second. Pierre Caffer's in from fourth. Mattia Di Giusto is in from fifth. Stefan Rosina in from sixth. And Anthony Beltoise in from seventh place. So the remaining cars all in because the pit window is now closed. So they left it as late as they dared. And actually, that was quite late. There weren't many seconds to play with, were there? So who's going to come out on top? The lid is closed. No mistakes from the teams here. So often pit stops can make or break a race. They're timing the stationary time. The driver must not speed in the pit lane either. They don't want to be stationary even a 1/10 of a second longer than they have to. But can you imagine being that accurate, a 1/10 of 1 second with your finger on the stopwatch, judging when the car actually stops, and then not allowing the driver to go within a 1/10 of a second of being told he's away. So clearly he was told on the radio, not by the lollipop man. No unsafe release. Well, Reinhard Koerfler had an 11.1 second lead over Ludo Badet when he came in. And Koerfler handing over to Martin Koch. Ludo Badet handing over to Jean-Luc Bobelic. Out behind comes the #1 car of Peter Gerlinks. He's taken over from Stinus Longin. Yellow and black #1 Audi. And that is not the order that they went in. So the 87 Mercedes has left the pit lane. Here's the Maserati in trouble. Is that the end of Leonardo Guarini's first lap? Or no, that was his, definitely not his out lap. Might have been his first flying lap. Carrying a little bit more speed in than the car would handle. So that won't have done the tyres any favours. There is Stefan Rattel on the right-hand side of your picture. On the left-hand side is the Audi taken over from Pierre Caffer by Michael Doppelmayr. So what are we seeing here? KTM on KTM action. And again, it's Jan Krabek on the outside being eased out wide by Klaus Angerhofer, his championship rival. Don't forget, Angerhofer taken over from Sadi Samini, and Samini was ahead of Jan Krabek. So Angerhofer dropping in behind. Now then, there is the Mercedes that was in second place, and Jean-Luc Bobelik is shown now as in second behind Martin Koch, but my timing screen and the on-screen graphics are arguing with each other. The timing screen says Koch, Bobelik, and then Gerlings, but our eyes saw Koch coming out of the pit lane with the yellow and black Audi behind him, and there is the Mercedes. So it is clearly not as the timing screen suggests. So the 87 car, Jean-Luc Bobelik, now being shuffled back down to fourth place. So that has sorted itself back out on the timing screen. It now reflects real life, and he is behind series boss Stefan Rattel. Stefan started out as an enthusiastic gentleman driver in his early years, became slightly accidentally involved in running the team and then running the championship, and the SRO organisation grew out of his involvement with BPR, who brought GT racing back to the forefront in the 90s. Through goes Jean-Luc Bobelik, up to third place overall. Now the circle completes itself for Rattel, finds himself still running SRO and all the different championships they administer and the different series across the world, because they're racing in Indianapolis as well, in the GT World Series in the USA, and in the Intercontinental Challenge. So, GT racing owes an awful lot to the inventiveness and the cohesion and adhesion and just stick-to-itness of Stefan Rattel over the years. But now it has come full circle. Not is he still only running the company, he's actually racing in one of his own series as well. And thoroughly enjoying it. Fourth place at the moment, behind Jean-Luc Bobelik. And behind him is Gilles Vanley, making his debut in the series. Oh dear, this could be bad news for the championship. My timing screen tells me the stewards are looking at the pit stop for car number 88 for being too short, and critically car number 1 for being too short. The 88 car of Stefan Rattel and Mattia Di Giusto is not a championship contender, but the number 1 PK Car Sport Audi of Stinus Longchamp and Peter Gerlings, the yellow and black car, definitely is. Well, they are currently in second place on the road, and behind Rattel now, 67, the black and gold championship leading Audi in the hands of Anthony Beltoise. It should be Henri Acide, because I believe that Beltoise started the race. Acide started race 1, and Anthony Beltoise took over in race 2. Anthony Beltoise we were talking about in the first part of the race. Timing screen still says it's Beltoise, but then the drivers have to switch over a little indicator to tell timing and scoring who is whom, because obviously it's a little harder for timing and scoring to see the helmets than it would be in a single-seater. So it should be not Anthony Beltoise, but Henri Acide. Right now, that car in 6th position. And were nothing to change, if the number 1 car finished 2nd and the 67 car finished in 6th, it's now up to 5th because it's squeezed ahead of Stefan Rattel. 2nd to 5th would be enough of a championship points switch to decide the title in favour of car number 1. But if they have a problem with their pit stop, they may lose further time. Jean-Luc Bobilic ahead of Gilles Vanelay. Vanelay in the number 15 machine. A little further back, our blue cars, the Mercedes AMG, now of Mauro Ricci. And chasing him, Leonardo Guarini in the Maserati GT2. Looked inside, couldn't get through. He's on the outside now in the tight and twisty stuff. You can see inside this final element of the circuit how many trucks there are in the back of the camera shot. Looking to go the long way around the outside. Virage du Lac, does that translate into the inside? Yes, it does, into Virage du Pont, the final corner. He gets through, moves up a spot, so that's a change for 8th place. They are both Pro-Am cars. Won't actually affect the point scoring of the Ricci's because it is invisible for points, but drivers like to be ahead of the car that's in front of them. 10-second time penalty for the number 1 car, and that is currently only 6 seconds ahead of 67 Anthony Beltoise, so that will drop them right now down behind the championship leaders, and that is a major drama for car number 1. Peter Gerlings currently in 2nd place. 88 car of Stefan Rattel and Mattia Di Giusto also with a 10-second pit stop time added penalty for too short a stop. And again, that is just a tiny little error, going a fraction too early away from a standstill. Now, in terms of our AM class battle, Martin Koch still leading the race outright. Now, he can't win the title. Klaus Angerhofer sharing with Sadie Sarmini, car number 16. Sarmini brought it in a strong position, but Jan Krabak we saw battling with Angerhofer after the pit stop. Krabak getting his nose in front, and Angerhofer has to beat him effectively, with Krabak not scoring. It's Stefan Perrin in the 888 Mercedes that leads AM at the moment, not this Mercedes. This is Mauro Ricci. Running out wide from Virage du Pont and moving over to driver's white, coming down the straight past the pits. And here is the move, the Maserati going outside, inside, around the outside at Virage du Lac, and then slicing up the inside of Virage du Pont. Mauro Ricci giving Leonardo Guarini plenty of room there. As I'm sure saw as soon as he saw that the Maserati was going the long way around the outside, he knew where he was coming. And Guarini now has got ahead of Michael Doppelmayr in that red and black Audi. So Leonardo Guarini now up to 7th place. Don't forget that Maserati finished Third on the road, second on the podium though after post-race penalties in the first race. So they had a very successful debut with this car. It's looked good, it sounds good, it qualified strongly, it's had 2 good races so far, ticking all the right boxes, and that car now up to 7th place. Next target for Leonardo Guarini will be Stefan Rattel. That is a sizable distance up the road. Stefan in 6th place, Guarini in 7th. And there is our race leader, Martin Koch. Carrying serenely on out front. Reinhard Koeffler started very strongly. The car on pole in the Koeffler's fastest in the second qualifying session, put the car on pole, built up a 12-second advantage. Koch is adding to that. It's currently 16.5 seconds over Peter Gerlings. There he is in second, with Gilles Vandelay closing fast in third, although the last lap Vandelay lost a little bit of ground. This lap he's closing again. Gap at the end of the last lap was 1.6 seconds. That is definitely not 1.6 seconds. That's a second less than 1.6, if it's that. So Gilles Vandelay in the KTM closing in on the yellow and black Audi. And that number 15 KTM does score Pro-Am points. That means if he gets by Peter Gerlings, then Gerlings is already down to third before the time penalty comes into effect. The championship is slipping inexorably from their grasp and towards the points leaders coming into this final race. Anthony Beltoise and the man who's driving the 67 Audi at the moment, Henri Acide. Well, that car in 5th. Acide just needs to make sure that he is within 10 seconds of Gerlings to guarantee that they win the title. Gilles Vandelay already just starting to look a little out of the slipstream, showing his lights in the mirrors, outside, inside, trying to unsettle Peter Gerlings. It's not close enough there to make the pass, but he's very close, close enough to really worry Gerlings. And Jean-Luc Bobulik, is Bobulik going a little quicker than these two? He is at the moment just a fraction off their pace, but the more they start to fight each other, the less that is going to be the case. Gilles Vandelay now starting to place himself. He comes out of Saint-Baume, the long right-handed corner 6. There's the left-hand flick of 7, and onto the Mistral they come. Now he's in the slipstream. And this is just foot to the floor, trying to let the engine sing along as best it can. He's in the tow, not close enough. Only 4.5 minutes remain. This is going to be very close indeed for the championship. As of now, without penalties, second place would be 18 points for Gerlings and Longchamp. And where they are now, Acide and Beltoise in 5th place would get 10 points. That is an 8-point gap. There is an 8-point difference between them. Were nothing to change and taking the penalty out of the equation, right now they are tied for the championship lead. It would come down to a tiebreak. Oh! This is 888, Stefan Perrin leaning on Jan Krabek. The Mercedes driver did not want to let the KTM through there for the lead in AM. Looks like he made a little mistake coming out of the final corner, Stefan Perrin. And Jan Krabbeck had the run on him, but Perrin defended hard. Now, the only chance that Peter Gerlings and Stennis Longchamp have now is if either A, the car of Henri Assis Nancy Beltoise has some kind of failure that drops them down the order, or Mauro Ricci, I beg your pardon, Leonardo Guarini, I beg your pardon, not even him, Stefan Rattel closes in and catches them. But right now, Peter Gerlings cannot let Gilles Vandelet get by. Being attacked by Vandelet is slowing him down and is reducing the gap to Henri Assis in 5th place, Hassid in the 67 car. And the gap between them, well, Gerlings is 19.4 seconds behind the leader, and Hassid is 25.8, so 5 seconds in it, and here comes the move from Gilles Vandelet, and that is desperate, tough defending for Peter Gerlings. Nothing untoward there. He just held his line. But here we go. Now he's going to be between a rock and a hard place. He didn't get a good run into the chicane. He does not get a good run out of it. And through goes Gilles Vandelet. He's up to 2nd, and worse than that for our championship hopefuls. Peter Gerlings now has Jean-Luc Bobelink right with him, and Bobelink could easily make a pass. The leader has already gone by, and a 10-second penalty added to the time of the #1 car at the end of the race as well will drop him down, probably behind Stefan Rattel. So the championship just slipping out of the grasp of, or wasn't in the grasp of, Peter Gerlings and Stennis Longchamp. But they have been battling all the way through. They've had 4 wins so far this season. 1 second place is their only other trip to the podium. And here is Gilles Vandelet onto the Mistral again, out of the chicane and up to Senior, moves across and pretty much gets onto the racing line as they come out of the chicane. He needed to, otherwise he'd have been in real trouble into Senior. But through he goes, Gilles Vandelet up to 2nd place. 22 seconds, though, behind Martin Koch, the race leader. They are on the last lap. The leader, when he comes to the line, will see the checkered flag for the final time this year. 6 race weekends, 12 races, and we come down to a handful of points to decide the title. Coming in here, there were just 3 points in it in the Pro-Am class, 1 point in it in the Am class. Ooh, really pushing hard. Martin Koch for MZR, Motorsport Centrum Reed, in their KTM crossbow. Reinhard Koerfler started it from pole. They have led every lap they've been on track. The only time they weren't in the lead was when they were making their mandatory pit stop. But it has been an absolutely crushing performance from this duo. The Austrian pair showing everybody a clean pair of heels right from the very first corner to the very last. The checkered flag awaits. The 2023 Fanatec GT2 European Series ends here with victory for Koerfler and Koch. They started from pole position and they claim victory. And for Reinhard Koerfler, that is his 2nd win of the season. They were 2nd in race 1, winning race 2. Gilles Vandelet, on his debut, takes 2nd place in the car started by Stefan Rosina. 3rd at the line is Peter Gerlings ahead of Jean-Luc Bobelink. Henri Assis takes the flag now, and he will finish in front in 4th place as the time has been allocated to Peter Gerlings. He drops down to 5th place, so he will finish in front of Stefan Rattel, who closes on the line now. Leonardo Guarini in the Maserati, then Mauro Ricci, and Stefan Perrin in the 888 is going to lose the lead of Am in the final corners. Through goes Jan Krabek. He is going to win the AM class in the style with which he would like to do it, taking the lead of the race in the very final corners. The checkered flag awaits. The champion is also the winner, Jan Krabek. And what a season he has had in the AM category. He takes the title ahead of Klaus Angerhofer. And Jan Krabek won both races in Monza, won race 2 in the Red Bull Ring after retiring in race 1, won race 2 in Dijon, didn't finish race 1 in Portimao, but won race 2, was not victorious in either race, though he was 2nd and 3rd in Valencia, and he has put together a double pole sitting, double race winning, title winning weekend here in Le Castellet. That's the way to do it. He came in a point behind Klaus Angerhofer. 2 poles meant that he started race 1 1 point in front, and he has won both of them. Angerhofer taking 2nd in race 1, 3rd in race 2. A titanic battle right the way to the end. Well, they say you only need 2 cars to make a race. You only need 2 drivers to make a title chase. And those 2 drivers made a title chase of it. But the AM champion is Jan Krabek. And the Pro-Am title will go to Anthony Beltoise and Henri Acide. So RTR Projects, KTM Crossbow, and Jan Krabek winning the driver's crown in AM. And it is the LP Racing duo, Anthony Beltoise and Henri Acide, who claim the Pro-Am title in their Audi. Well, there are the race winners, or there is the race winner, Martin Koch, who shared with Reinhard Koeffler in the first half of the race. Koeffler did a great job, and Koch very nearly doubled the advantage he was given. It was just under 12 seconds on the last full lap before the pit stop started, and at the line 20.6 ahead of Gilles Vannelet. And there is the famous pit lane entry here at Le Castellet. They used to come in out of the final corner and just cut right across the track. Different times, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, different times. But that grassy inside there, in fact, back in the, if you look at pictures in the 70s and the 80s, it was full of flowers as well, that inside area. And there, the team applauding Martin Koch as he takes victory. Already in the 3rd place spot under the podium is Jean-Luc Bobelic, who it seems the stewards were quite happy with the start of his teammate. So Ludo Bade going off like he had jet-assisted propulsion. An enormous start from Ludo Bade, and good stints from both drivers, but epic stuff from Koch and Koeffler as they claim victory in the final race of the season. Some happy team members, some happy fans as well, all around this circuit. It's a very, very busy Circuit de Castellet this weekend. Free entry for the fans. That's all part of the SRO Racing Festival. It's not just GTs, there are single-seaters, there's one-make touring cars, there's French GT, GT2, GT4, Clio Cup, Porsche, Carrera Cup, France. But there are your race winners, Martin Koch with a helmet and Reinhard Koeffler. So Gilles Vannelet joining the field, another very well-known and well-storied French GT racing and sports car race. He joined Stefan Rosina at the very last minute, really, after the first free practice session. But there are your race winners. What's he pointing out? Ah, okay, so a message from the team. And that will make that especially emotional for the drivers. When you're in the car, when you're in the race, it's about doing what you do. It's only when the adrenaline starts to drop away that those thoughts come to you. Well, congratulations to them, to Gilles Vanelay and Stéphane Rosina, second in the podium, and Jean-Luc Bobelic and Ludo Badet taking third place. So 2 KTMs and a Mercedes on the podium, but the title going to the Audi drivers, Henri Acide and Anthony Beltoise. And in the AM class, victory for Jan Krabek from Stéphane Perrin and Klaus Angerhofer. So this is the way they finished. 23 laps completed in the 50 minutes. No full course yellows, no safety cars, no red flags, no other major incidents. Koch and Koffler victorious from Vanelay and Rosina, Bobelic and Badet. But the champions, Acide and Beltoise from Gerlings and Longchamp. In sixth place, Stéphane Rattel and Mattia Di Giusto. After their penalty was applied, they still stayed ahead of the Maserati of Guarini and Piri, with the Ricci's father and son finishing in eighth place. And that was most of the Pro-Am field. The Am class victorious in the final couple of corners. Jan Krabek took victory in the race and in the title hunt. Perrin and Knoll second, and Angerhofer and Sarmini third. And in fact, they will be second and I think Sadie Sarmini third in the championship. So not a bad weekend for them either. A sunny day in Le Castellet for the final race of the GT2 European Series, and an unfortunate spin for the Ricci Mercedes early on. They recovered, not without a little bit of fun and games on the way, as Reinhard Koeffler led the early running. The battle for the championship looked perhaps to be going the way of the #1 car. In the AM class, Jan Krabek was fighting to get to the top of the pile after being third early on. Maserati post-pit stops spinning in trouble, but leading comfortably to the pit stops was number 812. Ludovic Badet did a great job early on. Jean-Luc Bobelic repeated that in the second part of the race in their Mercedes, as the battle for the lead in the AM class continued to rage. Mercedes versus Maserati. The Maserati GT2 going well on its debut, but out front, no question, Martin Koch taking over the front-running KTM as his rivals battle behind. In the closing stages, it looked as though the #1 car might hang on, but a pit stop penalty and a loss of ground would deny them a chance to run for the title. Peter Gerlings being passed for second place by Gilles Vanelay in the closing stages. And in the AM class, again, it looked as though Jan Krabek would not end up with victory, as Martin Koch headed towards the checkered flag in 812 ahead of the Mercedes. Victory for the KTM, and in the end it was Jan Krabek who claimed the win in the AM class as well as the title. And that is it from the Fanatec GT2 European Series for 2023. Thrilling right to the very last. Thank you for joining us. Let's hope that we'll have even more action in 2024 as the series returns with more drivers, more cars, and more action.